Hi there, Blaze here, and in today's tutorial I'm gonna show you how to serialize dictionaries and other complex objects without using any external library. We will just use standard Unity tools, so Unity JSON utility, and I will also show you how to display dictionary in the Unity inspector. Okay, so we have similar code like in the previous tutorial. If you don't watch the previous tutorial, which was about serializing data using Newtonsoft JSON library, you probably want to watch it to have similar code, but this is not obligatory. We have only these two scripts, so you can just write the code from this video. Remember, we have serializator game object here with serializator script added as a component to it, and this is our script for serializator and serialized data. Quick reminder that finished projects from this tutorial is available on my Buy Me a Coffee page, so if you want to obtain it, you can buy it here. Prices starts from $1. Of course, I will show you the entire process of coding in this video, so think about this product more like as a support for my work. Thanks, and let's begin. Okay, there are slightly changes comparing it to the previous tutorial. One of it is that I, in serialized data, changed Q for data time. I will tell you why this is changed later in this tutorial, but instead of Q we have data time. And in the serializator we have this using for Newtonsoft JSON, but I removed this package, so as you can see in the console, Newtonsoft namespace cannot be found. So we will change this to work with standard Unity JSON utility. So we will use JSON utility and to JSON, and here we have the same but from JSON. Okay, and if we run this game now, here is our JSON, but we will also open save.json in the Visual Studio Code, so you can see how the file looks like. Okay, here we go. Here is our save.json. I will format it, and as you can see, we have 4 fields here. We don't have dictionary and DateTime because those are not serialized by default by the Unity serializator. Okay, so these two types, dictionary and DateTime, are slightly different. So we will start with dictionary, and then we go to the DateTime. I think that this tutorial only for these two types will be enough, so you can implement it for the another types if you want to use it, for example, with you. And the best option how we want to serialize this is to create new script, call this script serialized dictionary, and write a custom dictionary class and use it instead of just dictionary. Okay, so we want to do this. We can remove content of this class, we can remove monobehavior inheritance, so we can remove all usings for now. And we have serialized dictionary class. We need to inherit it from dictionary tk t-value and from interface serialization callback receive. tk and t-value need to be passed with the serialized dictionary. This specifies the types for key and this for the value. And serialization callback pushes us to implement interface members, and these methods need to be public. Okay, and now what we need to do is to specify fields that are serializable by default in Unity. So if we have a dictionary, this dictionary have keys and values. We can store it as a list of keys or list of values. Second method is to create a list of custom objects. These objects will be something like dictionary element, and we will go through both cases. I will show you the difference. Let's start with keys and values because this is probably enough to serialize this to the file, but can be a little problematic when it comes to displaying this dictionary in inspector. And then we will change this to the object and display it better in the inspector. Okay, let's start with serialize field because this field will be private. So as I said in the latest video, when we want to serialize private fields, we need to set it as a serializable field, and also we need to set class as serializable. This will be a list of the types we specify when construct the dictionary. So this will be t-key, keys, and we can initialize it as a new list. And the same for values. Okay, now we have on before serializable and on after the serialize functions, which are used by Unity to serialize and deserialize these things. We can remove this exception throwing here, and let's start with on before serializable. We need to clear our keys and values arrays. We need to be sure that when we serialize these things, these lists are empty because we don't want to have duplicated keys and values. Okay, so now we want to push all the keys and values from the pair we have from serialized dictionary. To do this, we need to implement for each loop. And by specifying this, we will use pairs from the dictionary which we inherit from. And now we just need to add keys and values to the corresponding lists. I hope everything is clear for now. We just get the entire dictionary because we derived from dictionary, and add its values, keys and values, to list keys and values, keys for keys, values for values. So now when this function will be called, we will have keys containing keys from dictionaries and values containing values from dictionaries. So this is when we will convert this dictionary to the list. And now we want to convert lists. For example, if we read them from the file, we will read the lists, and now we want this list to be a dictionary. So let's start with clear function. This clear function is function from the dictionary, and it counts that dictionary will be cleared, so there will be no keys and no values in this dictionary, which is good because we don't want to have duplicated keys and values, so we need to clear the dictionary first. And then we should check if we have the same amount of keys and values in our lists. If we have more keys than values or more values than keys, then something went wrong and we need to handle this exception. But for now, I will just show an exception because I want to inform programmer, me, that something went wrong. In the standard case, when we will serialize and deserialize from the file, the keys and values should be the same. But if we will change this list from the inspector, then the keys and values could be different. So I will show you how this will work. Then we will need to iterate through keys and values list and add this list as a dictionary fields. So we will iterate through keys and assign it to the this. Like I said before, this is the dictionary, keys position, and assigned value from values position. Okay, one more thing, we need to go to serialize data and change dictionary to serialize dictionary. We don't need to change anything more, we just go to Unity and click play. And now when we open our file in Visual Studio Code, you can see that custom fields is described in the way keys and values. This is slightly different than Newtonsoft JSON do this, as I show you in the latest video, but this option is also okay. When we then read this file and deserialize this to the object, it is done with Serializator. We read the file, display content of the file, and the serialized object to the serialized data, and then display email from dictionaries. You can see that we have John Smith at smith.com, so this serialization works. Now we want to display this serialized dictionary in the inspector, and to do this I will need to create new script, call it serialized data object. I will create a new empty object, serialized object, and add this as a component. Now we want to edit the script, and all I want to do is to just copy this serialized data, paste it here. We need to change the class name, and we need to set inheritance from monobehavior, just like it was before. We will simplify this, so we will go on with serialized dictionary, and we will not create any fields. We will just do this in the inspector. Save it and move to the Unity. Now we have custom fields here, but when we display this, we have two lists, keys and values, and it doesn't display well because we will need to check for every key and for every value. And the other problem is when we create key, we don't create anything, we just get the exception that number of keys and values does not match. And to change this and make it work, we need to create a list of custom objects here in Serialized Dictionary, and we will do this by creating new script, name it Serialized Dictionary element. And now we want to edit this. We can remove all usings, we can remove monobehavior inheritance and clear content. All we need to do is to create key and value in this class. And this class will just contain our key and value for the single object. So we will create public tk. To not have problems with IntelliSense, we should specify tk and t-value before we start typing these types below. Now this will be much more easier because IntelliSense will not change our types for something else. We can name it key from small letter probably, and the same for value. We can make this class serializable. We need to add using system. Okay, let's save this and move to the serialized dictionary. And now instead of keys and values, we want to have a private list of serialized dictionary elements, and the type will be tk t-value from serialized dictionary tk and t-value specified. And we can call this list elements and create as a new list. Now we need to change some things here. First, we don't need this if condition because keys and values must be the same because we have these elements. This element contains both key and values, so there is no case to have less keys than values. Or here we need to clear the element lists. And to add these elements to the list, instead of using keys and values add, we will add elements. So elements add new serialized dictionary element. And to initialize this element, we should add a constructor here. So let's make public serialized dictionary element tk t-value. as a constructor. And in parameters, we want to have key and value. So we need to write tk key and key value value. And sorry, there is no need to specify type in here. And now we want to assign key to this key and value to this value. And now we can push this key and value here in the constructor. So let's go with pair key and pair value. And we have our list of the elements. And now when we will deserialize this, we need to iterate through elements. And we can do this also in the for each loop. This will be easier to read. So for each element in elements, we want to assign this element key as element value. Let's run this program to see if the serialization to file works okay. And what is the difference? Here's our file. As you can see, it looks slightly different because in custom fields, we don't have a list of keys and a list of values anymore. Instead of this, we have a list of elements, and each element is displayed as a sub-object. So we have sub-object with key phone number and key email and with values. Now, when we go to serialized object in our Unity scene, you also see that we have custom fields, elements. And now when we want to add new element, there's no problem with this because we add element and we have element with key and value. So we can set the key as name, for example, and value as John Smith, and this name is also displayed here. Okay, so here's the way to serialize dictionaries, but there are some other types in Unity like DateTime that is not as easy to serialize this using this way. I will show you why. Let's create a new C# script and name it serialize DateTime. And when you open it, remove all usings and the content of the class, and also remove the mono behavior. And let's do the same way as we do this lately. So we want to inherit from DateTime, and we need to implement interface iSerialization callback receiver also. We need to add these interface methods, but the DateTime is underscored, and the reason is because we cannot derive from sealed type DateTime. When you go to the DateTime implementation, you will see that DateTime is struct. When you go to the dictionary implementation, you will see that dictionary is class. Because of this, we cannot just derive from the DateTime, but we want to display it in the inspector, and we want to serialize this to the file, so we need to have another solution for this problem. Let's remove this inheritance here and leave only iSerialization callback receiver. And what we need to do is to create private field of type DateTime, and we will have to preserve the DateTime in this value instead of just deriving from it. So we have DateTime, but we also need to have a field which will be serialized, and we need to know how to specify this DateTime. DateTime could be serialized to the string because string value is a universal value for any DateTime, and it can be easily serialized and deserialized using DateTime methods. So let's create private string and let's call it serialize DateTime. Let's make this class serializable also. And now the DateTime is private, we can make it public, so it will be accessible from another scripts. I will show you, because now when you go to any script, for example here, and implement serialized DateTime, you are not able to access this DateTime field, so it makes no sense because you have DateTime object, serialized DateTime, but you cannot access it. So good option is to create public DateTime field property, and make it returns DateTime, and you need to specify setter also. And now you can access this using DateTime, and you can set it, for example, to DateTime. Now, time, we need to import system. We need to specify new. What is the difference between serialized DateTime and serialized dictionary? When you go with serialized dictionary and specify the types, for example, as strings, dictionary, you can access this object like in standard dictionary. So you can go with dictionary, and then you can specify a key for this. So for example, let's say email, and you can assign it, write it in this way as it will be a standard dictionary. With the DateTime, because we know derive from the DateTime, we need to specify property which will get or set this DateTime. It's better to derive from the object when it's possible, because we don't need to use another property. But for types where this is not possible, we need to do this trick. Let's back to serialize DateTime and implement our deserialize and serializing methods. So when we want to serialize this field, we need to assign to the serialized DateTime value DateTime, which we can access this from the property or just by this field. There is no difference. That to universal time, because this function converts the value of the DateTime to coordinated universal time. This is important if your game can run on different devices and if players can move around the world and the time can change. It is good to convert this to the universal time. Then we need to set this to string. and format we can set O. Here's the example how the O will look. So we have year, dash month, dash day, t, time, dot, and milliseconds. This is good format to serialize data time. And now when we want to deserialize this, we will need to assign it to the data time. And we need to get this serialized data time and parse it to the data time. And we do this by datatime.parse, and here comes our value, so serialized data time. But we also need to remember that if we use to universal time, we need to convert this to local time again. And here we go. One more thing, we need to go to serialized data and change data time to serialized data time. Now we cannot assign data time now in this way. We need to remove this and assign it in the constructor this way using the property. And now when we save this and go to the Unity and run the program, we have an exception, null reference exception in the line 17, and I will show you why this error is displayed. Let's switch off the play mode, go to serialize data time here. This field doesn't exist, and this is because we don't specify any constructor. We need to specify constructor because data time is struct and need to be initialized before its value is used. So let's create constructor. Serialized data time, it needs to be public, of course, and let's set serialized data time to null. This is less important. The most important is to set data time to default. You can also set data time to data time now, and you don't need to specify this here. So we can remove this line and specify data time now here. There's no difference. This will work a little different. You need to know what is better in your project. And now we can play this program. And now when you go to the file, format this, you can see that data time is specified as another object, and this object have a field serialized data time, and our data with the time is saved here. And the same if you go to serialized object, we need to add this serialized data time here. Serialized data time, let's make it new, save the file, and if you go to Unity, you have the dictionaries we used before, and you have the data time and serialized data time you have here. You can edit it, but you need to remember that you should use this format which is used here. So we can easily change the date. You need to copy this, paste it to the notepad, for example, change it here, copy that, and just paste it. You cannot modify this in Unity because this exception will be thrown. Just a few more words that this method is not as good as using external library like Newtonsoft.json. If you don't watch my latest video, you should definitely check it. But I decided to create this tutorial because sometimes you need to implement this without using external libraries. And the Newtonsoft also doesn't provide functionality to display these dictionaries or other complex objects in the inspector. Hope it helps. If you have any question, write them in the comment section. See you soon in the next video. Bye!